I cannot believe I'm doing this video at last. I really wanted to do it, so I hope this goes well. Hello beautiful bookworms, my name is Katarina and welcome to my channel. So today I'm doing something that I wanted to do for a while now since I have finished this trilogy, and that is a series review for The School for Good and Evil. And I really know that the fourth book in the series came out not too long ago in September, but the first trilogy, or the main trilogy, closes the first arc. So this fourth book, we can say, although it appears to have the same characters, it follows a different path. So we're just gonna roll with the fact that I'm saying that this is the main trilogy and accept that I'm reviewing it. So this trilogy consists of the first book, The School for Good and Evil, and please appreciate these covers. The School for Good and Evil, A World Without Princes, which is the second book, and The School for Good and Evil, The Last Happy Ending, which is the third and final book of the main trilogy. So for purposes of not spoiling you guys, because the idea is that this is a non-spoiler series review, I'm not going to show for a long time the covers of the second and the third book, because they might be considered spoilers if you are attentive to what's going on in the covers, which normally people aren't, but it can happen, and I don't want to spoil this reading experience for you if at the end you decide that you want to read this. So I'm just gonna show you the first book, The School for Good and Evil, and talk a little bit about the books, what I felt while reading them, and what they are about, which is what a review is supposed to do. So, the first book, The School for Good and Evil, is where everything starts. I forgot to say that this is by Saman Chainani, so I don't really enjoy saying his name because I know that I'm saying it wrong every time, but I have no idea how you pronounce Chainani. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing Saman right, but I hope so. So, if by any reason this author is watching this, I'm so sorry, because I don't know how to do this. So, as I was saying, The School for Good and Evil is a middle grade series and is just amazing. First of all, you have to understand that it doesn't look anything like middle grade. It could actually be YA, because when you actually learn the ages of your main characters, they are most likely 14, 15, something like that, and they are turning 16. So you could discuss if this is really middle grade or YA, but it is marketed as middle grade, although it reads most of the time as YA or even something in between. And I have to say that for the writing style, I just loved it. You felt everything so much in your skin. You could actually be terrified by just some few words, and you can actually be feeling the feels by other words. So you could laugh, you could cry, you could be terrified, you could be happy about it. Everything, just by reading his writing, which I think is actually a very good quality in a writer, even if it is middle grade, because other people like me, I am 21 for instance, can enjoy this as being a book for their ages, which is not, but it most definitely can be for any age, on my opinion. So that is that for the general writing thing. So for the plot of this book, The School for Good and Evil centers on two main characters, these two girls right here, Sophia and Agatha. And the first book starts with them living in a village where they live called Gavaldon, where I believe 4 years apart, kids are kidnapped, two kids, and they are sent to the School of Good and Evil. And Sophia really wants to go because she dreamed all her life that she was going to be a princess. She's pretty, she's just beautiful, she does good deeds, she knows how to take care of her skin, she wants a prince and a kingdom and everything like that. And Agatha, her best friend, she doesn't want anything to do with fairy tales, and she just wants to live her life in peace. And she is considered a town witch because of her mother that heals people, and it's not particularly attractive. So these two girls are indeed kidnapped, and I'm not spoiling you, like literally is in the back. They are indeed kidnapped, but while they are going to the School of Good and Evil, which are like two twin towers where you learn how to be a prince or princess and how to be a villain of a fairy tale, they are swapped, which means Sophia goes to the school for evil and Agatha to the school for good. And that creates chaos and mayhem, as you might as well understand from this premise. So obviously, what can I say that is not spoiler? Well, I'm just gonna start talking a little bit about themes that are explored in the books in a non-spoiler way, because I can't really say a lot more about the plot of these books. So, in this first book, I really enjoyed it from the start, and it really made me read it really, really fast because of the fact that it fights stereotypes and it tries to turn the genre on its head and tries to turn fairy tale around. Because supposedly the pretty girl, the girl that does good things, the girl that just looks beautiful, is what we learn in old fairy tales that is the princess, the girl that should be good, the girl that is the main character. And in this case, that's not what happens. It's an ugly girl that is the supposed good person in this novel. And that for me was very important because as I was growing up, and I believe that a lot of girls and also boys might have felt the same, these stereotypes kind of pressure the way that people are seen in society. Because if you read this since you are a child, you will probably construct an idea that although beauty, yes, comes from the within and from the actions that these princesses from the fairy tale world do, the fact is that they are always pretty. So probably the fact that you are beautiful outside reflects that you're beautiful inside, and that's not always the case. Some beautiful people are not the constructed reality of beauty in society, although they are beautiful in their way, and there are ugly people inside that are really perfect in the society way of viewing stuff. So for me, this was really important because we have a new generation coming up of kids that are growing up right now with the same fairy tales that we grow up with, that can read this and say, wait, so it's not really that you're beautiful that makes you being a princess or a good person. Is what you are on the inside that counts. And that for me was just so beautiful, because it's time to stop convincing children that you have to have snow white skin and red lips and dark eyes to be a freaking princess or a freaking beauty or a freaking good person. Like, stop. Please, it's time that you stop doing that. So that for me was already awesome. And then I have to say that the way that it spends the entire trilogy discussing what is good and what is evil is even better than that. Because we all have a little bit of good and a little bit of evil inside of us. And it is the actions that we take that define where we actually go and who we actually are and where can we be considered good or evil. And that for me was the lesson to take from this trilogy. It was that you can't say that anyone is truly good or truly evil. You have to see the choices that those people make in order to try and understand who they are. And you also have to know that there has to be a balance between good and evil, and that it's the only thing that makes this world go around and continue is that balance. And that for me was so very special to read, because it's something that they never teach you in fairy tales. In fairy tales, the villains are always won over. They die, or they are destroyed, or they just go away for some reason. But in this one, it's more complicated than that, because evil is an everlasting presence as well as good. And that is really important, because in real life, just because you think you're a good person doesn't mean that there are not going to happen bad things to you, if you know what I mean. And you have to know that there has to be a balance between positive and negative, good and evil, to try and live your life, because if you don't know that, you can't do it. So this for me was the main important thing of the whole trilogy. But I have to say that in the second book is also explored what it means to be a girl and what it means to be a boy, specifically the stereotypes of the female genre and the male genre in fairy tales. And that for me was also a big lesson, because with everything that's going on in our society right now, with people feeling that they're not the sex that they were born with, but they are other genre, with people loving, well, people of the same sex, people of other sexes, loving whatever they want to love, which for me it's totally okay. I'm completely fine with that. I think this is very important to explore in a middle grade book, because I think that our children should grow up reading about different types of love, what is love, and what it means to be a girl or a boy, and how that is really not as stereotyped as it should be, and that it's not as specific as it should be, that you can be what you feel you are. That's what I'm trying to say. So for me, this discussion was really important also, and I think it's very important for the children of nowadays. And on the third book, we have a very, very incredible discussion about what is old, what is new, what is the meaning of a relationship, and how do you know if that is best for you or not, and what is the meaning of being with someone, being alone, and just discover your way with someone or alone. And that for me was very important. That for me was very important for people to know, because in normal fairy tales, you always have this princess that is waiting for her prince. And that is old-fashioned. That is something that, although I like to dream with stuff like that, because who doesn't? It's normal to dream with that stuff. It doesn't mean that you yourself can't make your happy ending by yourself. It doesn't mean that you always have to be waiting for someone to make it for you. And I think that that's a very hard lesson to learn for people like me that grow up wishing for a prince and a white horse, but is very satisfying in the end, because you feel like you don't depend on so many things to be happy. And I have to say that the last line of the last book made me sob uncontrollably. And it was just so great. It was the best line in a freaking book that I could ever ask for. It was the best line I read in a book with these themes in my entire life. And if that doesn't say that you should pick these series, I don't know what could convince you to do it. This series is filled with plot twists that you don't see coming, although you think, well, it's middle grade, I'm going to see everything coming. You don't see coming. It's filled with genuinely good written dialogues and good written descriptions of stuff. Obviously, it's filled with magic, because it's a fairy tale, and it's just so great. I loved it. I think that everyone should read it, whether you are like 10 years old or 50 years old. I think you can take something from these books, and I genuinely can't wait for the fourth book, and I'm so happy that I read it. I read these so fast, and I'm so glad that I had this experience and that I can share it with you guys, because I am really pumped for the fourth book, and I really hope that maybe you guys pick this trilogy up and just read it and take some of the lessons that I leave here with you, or even if you don't, that you just enjoy a little bit of a modern fairy tale if you want. So for me, The School for Good and Evil is rated 5 stars, the 3 of them, and I don't normally rate books on my channel, because I believe that that's a decision for people to make on their own, but I have to rate this 5 stars. All of them. I have to say that the character development is amazing. I have to say that it makes you contradict yourself in the things that you believe in, from the first book to the last one. I have to say that it brings out everything in you that you didn't know a book could bring out. So, if you don't want to read this after what I said, I can't convince you to do this. So that is all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this series review. If you like this video, leave a like or subscribe down below. And please tell me if you picked the series up, what do you think, if you agree with me, if you don't, which is perfectly normal and I will perfectly understand, because people have different opinions about stuff. obviously, and people might have not seen the same messages that I have and seen something problematic maybe. I have no idea. I've never heard anything like that about these books, but it's not impossible. So just tell me something down below, and I hope you guys enjoy this, and happy readings to you all. Also tell me if you're going to pick up these books and this trilogy, because I really want to know if I could influence someone to just take a shot and read these books. So yeah guys, happy readings to you all. Bye!